This video is going to help you understand the cell size virtual or online lab. This chart requires you to do some calculations. So let's start by looking first at the surface area. Now in this lab we're dealing with cubes because it's actually fairly simple to calculate the surface area and volume of a cube, whereas it would be a lot harder if we were looking at something like a sphere. So we can start by drawing a simple cube. And a cube is like a dice, and so we know that cubes have 6 sides to them. Looking at the dimensions of a cube, we have a height dimension, a width dimension, and a length dimension. For the first cube that we are looking at, each side is equal to 1 micrometer. To figure out the surface area, we're going to start by taking the length of one side times the length or the width of another side. And that's going to give us 1 times 1. And that tells us the surface area of just one side of the cube. But we have 6 sides, so we have to take that number and multiply it by 6. So if we multiply that out, we have 1 times 1, which gives us 1, times 6, which gives us 6. And that's the surface area of our first cube. Now for our second cube, looking at the cube that has 2 micrometers on each side, we would do that same equation, but instead of the ones, we'll substitute 2. So we would take 2 times 2 to give us the surface area of one side, and multiply that by 6 to give us the surface area of all 6 sides. So 2 times 2 is equal to 4. Multiply 4 by 6 in order to get 24. Now for the 3 micrometer cube, I will let you figure that one out on your own using this simple formula. Now to figure out the volume of these cubes, the volume is equal to the length of one side times the width times the height. In this case, these numbers are the same because we're working with a perfect cube. So for our first cube, we would just take 1 times 1 times 1. And that just gives us a volume of 1. For our 2 micrometer cube, we would take 2 times 2 times 2. 2 times 2 is 4 times 2, which would give us a surface area of, a volume of 8. And then for the 3 micrometer cube, I will let you work that one out on your own. Now to figure out the surface area to volume ratio, we just take the surface area, add a colon, and then add the volume. So the surface area to volume ratio for the 1 micrometer cube is just 6 to 1. Now for the 2 micrometer cube, it gets a little bit more complex. We can still say 24 to 8 ratio, but we can treat this ratio like a fraction. And so we can actually simplify that because 8 goes into 24 3 times. So we can simplify that to say that it has a 3 to 1 surface area to volume ratio. Now if we look at this diffusion rate of 1 micrometer per minute, we could calculate the number of minutes required for nutrients to reach the middle of the cube. And we can do that by taking 1/2 times the length of one side. So for our first one, it would be 1/2 times 1 micrometer, which would give us 1/2. So the answer would be 1/2 a minute for diffusion to occur. For our 2 micrometer cube, we could take 1/2 times 2, which gives us 1. So it would take 1 minute for those nutrients to diffuse to the middle of the cube. And then of course I'll let you figure out the 3 micrometer cube on your own.